Lies for dollars. The game of Trump to take your money and your honey. And how to do it in a way that ticks you off but makes him more money. Do you realize every time you get ticked off by this man, he's getting attention for ad dollars? Let me give you an example. This past weekend, there are people who are ticked off by the fact that the U.S. Army was pledging allegiance to him. And I understand. You have a right to be upset to that, but understand, don't give attention to it. Here's what I want you to understand, is that if you give attention to that and the press knows it, the press will pay attention to that more than they will the 2,000 events that happened across 5 million people across the country that were 99% peaceful and loving and resisting in a active resistance way. Understand that. The narrative that needs to be this week is that 5 million plus people in this nation stood up in some of the highest protests ever, including here in Chicago, where they shut stuff down saying we are against this and we stand for democracy. And in that is the narrative we have to go into the week with. This is a battle of narratives, and narratives means he's trying to get into your mind. It's an attempt to pimp. All right, it's an attempt to pimp. Remember the Donald Trump formula: break the law, then he ends up losing on the lower courts, going to the circuit courts of appeal, then going up to the Supreme Court. He doesn't care about how many losses he has, which, by the way, he's 9-90. So he doesn't care about that. What he cares about is his name being mentioned, him projecting strength and executing, even though he's not effective. Think about that. He's 90% executing. Well, he's 100% executing, but he's only 10% effective. How do we know? He's 9-90 in the last 21 weeks. That's what enough people need to say. Notice I'm the only one doing score on this. You got a lot of alarmists on the left pointing out every wrong thing he did for attention. They will put out there, yes, the Army pledged allegiance to him, which is horrible. Why are they doing that? For attention. Why is the media doing that? For attention. What I'm doing is not to keep you alarmed, but keep you armed, to understand it's a trick that he's getting inside your mind and your behind to get you off the goal. What goals are we looking at? Again, the 2,000 events that happened with 5 million people, the $880 billion big, beautiful BS bill. What about the other things that are happening? Aurelio Garcia, who's saying not guilty, and rightfully so, and how we need to support him and his movement, how we need to point out Hegseth and the Signal Gate. Don't just drop that. This man and the other people in the White House, along with these satellites that he's doing, with Elon's satellites in the White House, are broadcasting all of the information out there. I'm amazed he was able to help Iran without Iran knowing, because in advance, because all they're doing is putting it on Signal Gate, WhatsApp, Messenger. They might as well post it on Facebook. So what I'm trying to get y'all to understand is the game is the game. And when you understand the game is the game, this is a ATP, attempt to pimp your minds, attempt to pimp your souls, attempt to get you away from the real stuff that matters. So when you hear the next gimmicky thing, he's been doing gimmicky things since the election, right? Serving fries at McDonald's, garbage truck. I'm going to have a $400 million plane. I'm going to go ahead and open up Alcatraz. I'm going to free Diddy. I'm going to free Larry Hoover. I'm going to free, pretty soon he'll be freeing other gangsters, Jeff Ford and the Mafia. I mean, he's just basically doing whatever he can do to get your attention away from the $880 billion big, beautiful BS bill. From the fact that he's trying to, do you know he's trying to sneak another bill in there? Yes. He's trying to sneak another bill in the game. Understand what the game is, the game that he's pulling on you. By the way, in the back end of my YouTube, I'm going to have a YouTube members only. If you enjoy any of my membership, always look in the description. Always look on the homepage. Under the membership of YouTube, which I just opened up, look under there. The difference is this. The YouTube membership, I have to talk in code and give you a little bit of information. It's still great. It's better than public. The deeper information is the Clarity Group. And if you're trying to get a bag during the Trump era and make some money, join my Moneymakers group. Anybody can. They're simple, low prices, okay? The whole idea is designed for you to come up and be able to get a bag and grow. Now, all of that said, I want you to understand that the Clarity group and the YouTube group is designed to go a little deeper. The YouTube goes deeper, and then the Clarity group goes deepest, because I don't have to, no rules at the Clarity group. I can go wild with it. So anything you want to hear me say really off the record. I mean, so much so in our lives, like yesterday, I stopped the recording and really started sharing some insider stuff, and somebody worked with Kamala's campaign. But on YouTube, I can talk a little bit in code. You can get a little test. Get the diamond package on YouTube. I want you to understand what's really happening right now. What Donald Trump is, he's playing a mindfuck game on you. He's playing the mindfuck if you are willing to play with him. See, understand, when you realize this week, he's going to come up with gimmicks. He's going to come up with everything out the bag he can pull because he's a liar, a thief, and a con. And we all know that he's going to be pulling bags. But what is really going on behind the scene? The second bill that's happening, which we don't know what it is, but Mike Johnson is hinting. We're going to come up with a backup bill because he knows this other bill ain't going to work. The big, beautiful bill. But no matter what gets through and gets passed as a law, which will be watered down anyway in the budget bill, understand this. The judicial branch going to stand on business like they have in the last 21 weeks. How do we know? 9 and 90. How do we know? 99. Hey, listen, I got 99 problems, but Trump wins ain't one. I'm trying to tell you right now, this is the game. But understand, our better days are ahead. He's wearing out. He's in the middle of a sprint while we're in the middle of a marathon. Understand that. Understand that. Don't let nobody lie to you on any of this crap I'm trying to tell you right now. Spread word on this video. Understand what I'm saying to you, that this guy is losing and he's continued to lose. But the one thing he doesn't lose on that we can't take lightly is that he is a Napoleonic tactician when it comes to the narrative. He is the king of spin and the narrative because he's been working the press for 50 years and he's been working the legal courts for 50 years. That's why a convicted felon, can become president. Now, instead of you being shocked at that shit, how about you just roll with me on this and we really get focused into what really matters? What really matters is us getting the bag. What really matters is us being, in the midst of Trumpism. Like I said, go into my description groups, join my Moneymakers group. But the other thing that matters is us being able to understand that he's attempting to pimp. And what we should be doing is spreading the truth. What kind of truth? This kind of truth? This video? All my videos you need to be sharing like a mother, because I'm the one telling you stuff that many people, if not most, on the left ain't saying. How many of them are giving a score? How many? No one. I've looked. I haven't seen anybody. Very few. If anybody, they probably grabbed it from me. The other thing they grabbed from me is the Trump failing formula. Here's how that works. He fails on the lower courts, goes to the appeal courts, go to the Supreme Court, but gets even better. Not only does he do this crappy stuff, okay, but he also moves around, this clown moves around and tries to jump into the narrative of manipulating you. Let me give you a great example of that manipulation. $400 million plane, Alcatraz. This is all a bunch of crap that's designed to mess with your head. See, once you understand that people are messing with your head, this is where you should understand very clearly it's going to be all right. Because he's trying to project strength he doesn't have. He's trying to manipulate where he can't. But if you can get in your head, you can get in the press head and get them talking about bull stuff, okay, bullish, then sure enough, he can raise all sorts of HELL out of everything. Now, our game is to point out clarity. Our game is to point out real. Their game is to misdirect you and make you think that you're losing when you're winning. Woo! Think about that. ATP, attempt to pimp. The game is on. And he's starting with his lies. He's leading with the lies. He's leading with misdirecting any kind of truth he can, no matter how effective we've been. Do you get that? Because if you get that, you never fall for this. And then you understand that there are other actors to this. See, working on Kamala's campaign, I began to understand the Democratic Congress, some of them are working against us. They're voting for stuff that don't make any darn sense, that he shouldn't be doing, that empowers the right. And they're capitulating. You know, I remember when Hakeem Jeffries came out, he said, "Y'all do what we can to work with the right." I'm like, what? Do you know who this is? You better recognize the gangster. Then on top of that, you got Chuck Schumer. Well, I'm going to get 9 Democrats and we're going to fight it. We're going to go ahead and vote for this bill. I'm like, no, dude, you missed the point. Then some people voted for that Laken Riley Act. Yeah, they doing stuff. And then I began to notice the people on the left who are alarmists, the creators who are out there bringing you the news. Breaking news. It's like, okay, breaking news, but what about context, analysis, perspective? What about that? It's okay that you have your opinion. I'm not saying I have mine, but I am saying it's not okay for you to say breaking news and just repeat like a parrot what the news is saying, like you're doing something special. And it's no hate on anybody in particular. It's thousands of people doing this. And the problem is that you're not giving analysis. You're not telling people what the fuck that means. That's where we got to go. That's where we got to be. That's the goal. Start getting analysis, perspective, and don't just take raw data for raw data. Even if it's real, verified raw data, understand what that really means. Let me give you an example in the past. We had that situation that went down, where the Supreme Court sided with the Alien Enemies Act, but it was a setup because what they said was, hey, habeas corpus. They went into habeas corpus. They went, hey, you got to do habeas corpus. You got to do process of the law. That's why they snatched it back and said, no, we got to stop you, Trump, because we know you can't do habeas corpus. So recently, in the recent weeks, they ruled that they could take 500,000 Venezuelan, Haitians, and Cubans off of the list for protection to get their visas and passes. But here's the catch. They still got to do habeas corpus. So you got 500,000 out there you can target, but you don't have the system to grab them because you're inept. You got incompetent people like Tom Homan who may go to jail, run along with Christy Stupid Holmes, may go to jail, run along with Pam freaking Bondi, because they're arresting citizens. Wait a minute, you just got 500,000 Venezuelans and Haitians and Cubans. Why are you arresting citizens? Why are you detaining VA veterans going to the VA like the Marines were doing instead of targeting the people you're supposed to be targeting? That's a problem. That's a problem. But it's going to catch them up. And what I'm saying is, when you see these laws come out, you see these things come out, what do they mean? And the alarmists left are just reporting them. They're not processing, assessing, analysis, context, nothing. That's the problem we have. And that's what we're dealing with. And I need y'all to understand that we need that. And I need you to understand, don't fall for the short gimmicky tricks that are being done by the right, by Trump, because he's a master strategist. That's what I want you to get. Grasp that and share that. I love y'all. Be safe. You know what's going on. And if you want more detail, you know about my groups. You can go in the description. If you're looking at this from TV, you can go over to my home channel and under there, enjoy my YouTube group. Get the diamond package, for real. Listen, YouTube makes money off my content, a lot of it. Darren should make some money too, don't you agree? Because I'm giving you some unique content. And the members only stuff, I'm giving you unique content. Now, if you're thinking, well, Clarity Group versus YouTube, I would go for the Clarity. But if you can't afford the Clarity, YouTube is a cheap find. You can get a good idea of what kind of content I'm putting out.